It is the finale of Geoff Johns month here at Comics Pals HQ, and we couldn't think of a better way to wrap things up than by going all the way back to the earliest days of Geoff Johns' career at DC Comics to examine one of his finest, potentially, works in all of comics. That being his celebrated run on the JSA. Now, we took a look at issues 1 through 25 for this, including the Secret Files issue. So we took in a good chunk, and I feel pretty comfortable talking about Geoff Johns' time with the JSA. And to do that, we have a panel full of experts. This
Who'd you
is the
get?
panel. Well, I mean, listen, we did what we could. We got Cale,
Oh, what's up, Wildcats?
Marco,
The proverbial expert.
Tyler,
Hi, I'm new to this. This is new for me. I'm no expert.
and I'm Sean. Thank you for being here. Whether you are live or in the future, make sure that you smash that like button
Smash it.
as we dive into the next installment of the Comics Pals Book Club. Now, this run started in August of 1999, which makes it one of the older books I think we've probably done for the book club. We've gone further back than that, certainly, but it's pretty old. And at some points it felt like it. We'll talk more about that.
Oh, yeah.
But it went from August of 99 to August of 2001. Alan Davis on the covers, which they were pretty nice.
Killer covers. Alan Davis has a face, you know, and the eyes. Yeah, love the covers.
James Robinson, David Goyer, and Geoff Johns all contributed to this to the issues that we read in some degree, which I was surprised by how much of them, or at least how much of David Goyer there was. Um, Now, what I have learned though is that David Goyer really wasn't as big a part of the writing process. It was mostly Geoff Johns and he would have a dinner once a month and sort of go over what they were looking to do, and then Geoff would lay down the script. So it was one of those situations.
You got paid for that? You got paid for having dinner? You got page rates for it?
Absolutely.
Expensive.
It's true. The old write it off method, right?
Joining them on the journey through the JSA was, for the most part, we had the artistic creative team of Steven Zadowski, who was a name that I was not familiar with prior to this. Um, Michael Baer on the inks, John Callis and Heroic Age on the colors, and Ken Lopez on the letters. Go ahead.
I was gonna say there's a guy named Heroic Age on the colors. Man, you're just born for this superhero comics. Like with that kind of name, jeez.
You are
That
not
dude's been
kidding.
around for a while.
Yes, yes. So the way that Geoff Johns found himself working on the JSA was actually an interesting story. A lot of you guys may know it. Maybe you know it from hearing him talk about it on here. But Geoff Johns did not start out as a comic book writer. He's been a lifelong fan, but he didn't start out as a comic book writer. Notably, he worked a lot with Richard Donner, who directed the Superman films. Um, and so while he was in New York working with Richard Donner, he ended up meeting uh, universally reviled editor Eddie Berganza. And Eddie Berganza said, "Oh, cool, like maybe you could do something with us." And so Geoff Johns did Stars and Stripe, um, which got on the radar of James Robinson. And James Robinson and David Goyer sort of said, "Hey, you should come do JSA with us." And Johns accepted, and the rest is the history that we're here to talk about. I always had a bad, like a bad feeling about James Robinson's work because I think
Mm.
I remember reading some stuff when I got into comics that wasn't good. I can't remember what book that even would have been, but I have to say, without knowing the full breakdown, the James Robinson issues of this were pretty good.
James Robbins is one of my favorite writers. Um, Starman is probably what you know him for. I know people
Mm.
don't care much for it because it has some maybe not the best terms, but his Airboy stuff. He did Airboy with Greg Hinkle, which is like a meta
Oh,
story about having to come up with a story for this out of IP character. So yeah, once I saw James Robinson was on there, I was like, hell yeah. I guess on the other side of the spectrum from you, Sean.
yeah. He's currently doing some work. Welcome to the Maynard. Even like he's still active in smaller bits, seemingly, but uh, yeah, good from that end. Market difference, and I think maybe we'll get into that from like the transition was felt on my part.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, I think I'm a hit or miss with James Robinson, but uh the sort of transition into the JSA title sort of comes from JSA The Golden Age, which James Robinson wrote, and it's like a sort of Elseworlds time capsule of a book that sort of condenses um the Golden Age World War II heroes and sort of does a bit like a light table setting of where the Golden Age heroes are and modernizes all that into a canon. Um and this stuff kind of follows loosely under that. I really like that book. Um and then getting into this, I was like, okay, I like this. I've never read Starman. It's a weird hole in my um reading that I would love to fill, but I've just never been able to. But everything else I've read from James Robinson has been kind of hit or miss. Didn't he do a Scarlet Witch not that long ago?
He did the one with the David Aha covers, I believe, where she
That's what I'm
was like
thinking
almost
of.
a mystical therapist.
I say not that long ago. That was
It
like
was a decade ago.
2015. Yeah.
But I know exactly what you meant. Yeah. To
And
be
I,
fair, he
I,
was the
I
last
know
one before Steve Orlando to do Scarlet Witch. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I know where my James Robinson hate comes from. He did no, I shouldn't say hate, but like why I had that negative feeling is he did Cry for Justice. So there you go.
Oh,
That's why I'd say, yeah, that's why he's hit or miss. Yep.
great book.
Um so yeah, the did I know we know that Cale came into this with a lot of he'd read this before, big JSA guy. Marco and Tyler, is this your first read?
First read for
uh,
sure. Yeah, I did plenty of Wikipediaing throughout my years just to kind of get acquainted with these characters. But even then, not much. So yeah, it was definitely kind of a first go round for me.
Cale actually recommended this to me, yeah, a couple years back. I loved it. So I read the first volume of what Tyler actually has here on the screen, book one. So up through about I think issue 15.
It's
So I'd
15.
read
Yep.
those pieces prior, and yeah, as I mentioned in my top five, this is like number two for Jeff Johns for me. So this is
Mark,
a lot of fun.
is this your copy that I have?
I think it is because I gave it away I think that is my copy.
Bully for me.
Hey, you're welcome.
Funny. Um, so JSA is a book that is very much about legacy. And it's, this is essentially like the first superhero team. And I think about whenever I think about the JSA, I think of Watchmen for obvious reasons. And you can definitely see the overlap between the JSA and Watchmen um, when you read this. And for some reason, that made this feel, having read Watchmen already, that made this feel very recognizable to me. Like a lot of the themes that it's dealing with are things that come up over there, and obviously in other places too. But that made a lot of this feel like, oh yeah, I've seen that before, but not in a negative way.
Like the parallels are there with regard to how legacy affects, the age of the superheroism. Yeah, yeah, definitely palpable. And I think that was the thing that attracted to me in the first read was from page one, it's you're burying somebody. We're trying to you're learning, or I'm learning about this person who used to be this. Now there's like a replacement for it, sand in this case, the Sandman. Um, so much of it is built off the back of, oh, these people have lived lives, have had prior experiences with a other generation. I'm now coming in, and I like that as the kind of table setting.
Yeah, it really kicks off with a bang. Before we talk about exactly what happens, though, I want to read this quote from Geoff Johns, who sort of summates the JSA very eloquently here, and thought it was worth leading with. Um, he said, "Yeah, for me, the JSA sort of embodies what I like about the DC universe. Um, you can kill off all you want, but it's not about blood, it's about the symbol. Somebody else is going to pick up that costume and that mask and that name. That to me is what the whole DC universe is about. Just look at Barry Allen, who has no relation to Jay Garrick, and I think that no matter what happens, these characters will survive forever. Their mythology, their character is just bigger than anybody. They're bigger than anybody working on them. They're bigger than their creators, even. They just grow and take on a life of their own. I think that's pretty amazing. And I think that that vibe definitely comes through with the JSA and what Johns was trying to accomplish. It's on every page and reflected in nearly every character in the book.
It's a theme he goes back to frequently throughout his DC work. And I mean, all the way through his DC work.
I gotta assume that comes into play with his Titan stuff too.
Titans,
Yeah.
Lantern, Flash.
But even here, it's more story to mine, which I think he plays really well. It allows him to make a character a focus, dig into their history, and if you're a seasoned reader, hey, I know this stuff, I recognize this, I can connect. Or if you're new, you're just figuring out for the first time, oh, there's so much I can go back to.
Well, this book opens up with friggin' Sandman, you
Yeah.
know? And Cale, that's the Sandman from Sandman Mystery Theater, right? Wesley Dodds, the one
Yep.
you
Yep.
love so much.
Yep.
In so much that like even Dream of the Endless shows up in this. So in my eyes, it was like, yes, this is legacy. These are characters that are ingrained in the DC universe and have been. Like they mention dates constantly in this, like, oh, it's been 60 years, yada yada. But it almost feels like a legacy of where DC Comics was at the time too, by almost bridging those themes that you get in Vertigo, Vertigo and Vertigo adjacent books into the main DC universe here, using Sandman as a bridge to kind of build this more mature version of what the DC universe could be. And this kind of happening around the same time of Morrison's JLA. So I can see that shift too, tonally happening with this book.
Well, I think I mean, it's the reflection of changing hands, right? Wesley Dodds was the guy. He was the founding member, right? And now you pass that on to that next generation. It is the weight that bears um on sand here.
And you could say that works creatively as well. Geoff Johns at this time would have been a new gun. And now he's taking over the reins of such a well-regarded team creatively. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
He even says it's not. He has all the money in the world, right? He has all the riches. He doesn't need to think or live, do whatever, right? It's you have to maintain the history. There has to be a JSA. Where else is Wildcat gonna be? Got nowhere to stay. He's on Social Security probably.
Stay at fucking Selena Kyle's house.
Hey yo,
Oh, we'll get to that. My favorite issue of this run.
So things kick off with the death of Wesley Dodds Sandman. And again, I made the reference to Watchmen earlier. I was seeing the parallel straight away because I was thinking about the comedian and how the same way that the comedian's death is the inciting incident for that book, the inciting incident here to get everybody together is the death of Wesley Dodds Sandman. Now, Cale, is this is when we see him in Night Terrors resurrected, had he been dead the whole time?
Oh yeah, yeah. He's never come back.
Wow.
I
Huh.
think he might have come back in Blackest Night as a zombie, but that's it.
Yeah.
Spit on the
Um,
grave.
and like not to my knowledge, not even like in similar ways to like Barry Allen showed up a couple times while Wally West was Flash and was like, "Oh hey man, you're doing a good job, timey wimey, Speed Force bullshit." Um, Dude's just old. No, no, no conceivable way really for him to come back.
I thought the way they presented his death and like all that stuff was so well done.
Mm.
That Secret Files issue was I thought was fantastic. In fact, from that to the throughout the first arc, I was like, holy shit, this is some of the best stuff I've read. Like superhero team wise. Um just it just has such an energy about it. You can feel the weight. We've talked about the weight of legacy. You can feel the weight of the events, you can feel the weight of the legacy, the way it burdens Sand to step up into that position. He feels confident and ready for it, but um I think even with his power set, like the way he just falls through the ground, like it's establishing that there's a lot of weight to this. He goes right through the floor because of how weighty this is. Um, Wildcat, he talks about um, Valhalla, where dead heroes are buried, and that's where they bury Sandman here, and it's like a burial ground for a lot of dead heroes. Um, and he thinks about his own death, and I really, really appreciated this scene because it works on multiple levels. He's a superhero himself, so death is like the probable outcome, but he's also old enough that if you live long enough, you watch people around you that you knew that you loved die. So it's obviously not relatable to be a superhero, but it is relatable to get older. It's relatable to watch people around you die. And so there were so many sort of like allegories and pointers to, legacy, death, what it means to die, how to live beyond your life, with the symbol, with the costume.
Early on, that idea of legacy too is brought up in the first couple issues where they're kind of bringing the team together for that first arc. But it's brought up pretty well with Atom Smasher. Um, they talk about how he's a guy that he went to do his own thing with the Justice League, where he was this mohawked wearing guy named Nuklon. And even in the comic, he's like, "Why the fuck did I call myself that? That was stupid.
Yeah.
I'm Atom Smasher. This is my legacy. This is the shoes I should be filling." And throughout, I'm sure even more than the 25 issues you read and change, he is coming to terms with that throughout this. And I thought he was one of the more compelling characters in this, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you. The the characters that get utilized here, I felt like this was a great cast. Like I thought this was an excellent cast. A lot of times with superhero books, superhero team books, someone gets the shaft. Like there's always a couple of characters that are just like, this book you didn't need them. It'd be just the same if they weren't here. And I don't know that I would say that about this.
No, Johns and Co do a really good job of giving everyone a little moment. That no matter how small it is, it makes you feel for them and gives them character, even enough, for you to go, oh, you know what? I think I really like JJ Thunder.
His name is Jakeem Cale. He's not a kid anymore.
Get it right.
Akeem
Okay.
Thunder.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it's been a long time.
No, I appreciate that, and I also appreciate their ability throughout this whole run just to be like, all right, team's changed. Oh, these guys, this guy needs to take a break. Like this guy has PTO essentially. He's gonna be out for this arc. And then their ability to just um, also kind of like cycle the team around. Like it's always like almost split in half the team at any given arc.
Mm.
Half this team goes that way, half this team goes that way. Let's split up, gang. Which then leads to different interactions and different altercations between the characters.
But I think it also sort of spreads the wealth of the action, right? Like, one team goes one way, you get an issue of that, and then the other team goes the other way, you get an issue of that. It's baked in longevity,
Yeah, and it's just easy interactions and easy to be able to continue the progress of the story. It's fun, man.
Our POV character pretty much is Stargirl. She's, coming into this, the youngest and the least experienced, and still in that line of legacy, which I really appreciated from that perspective. She has an uncomfortable relationship with her stepfather. It's not the best relationship, um, but there is this legacy attached, and so the way that she's used here, I mean, we've seen it many times before. You get that young POV character. But I actually found myself really enjoying Stargirl throughout the book. I like that we get to see her progress. She goes from, not even really necessarily knowing how to use her powers, and needing to learn. Then she interacts with the prior, what was his name? Star Man?
Star Spangled Kid.
Star Spangled Kid.
Yeah. Even though he's a
Um,
full on man.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But she learns, and what she always has is that thing that makes a hero: the willingness to step up, the willingness to brave danger, the willingness to put your life at risk.
From the first part even with Mordru, right? Day one, everybody else is down. Damn, I'm the only one. Guess I got to do something.
Yeah.
That's it. Easy. And that makes her a likable character because uh, she's willing to put her life on the line to save her friends. Right? Easy peasy.
I
Yeah,
think I think she's written with a lot of care too.
Well, we know she's special to Geoff Johns in terms of
Yeah.
all of his creations. It's probably his most cherished creation in all of comics. I think he'd probably agree with that. Um, and her being the book that got Geoff the gig, essentially, from Stars and Stripes, also means there's care to bringing her into this as well. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think and out of all the characters, like a lot of the characters cycle through, she stays throughout, and I thought that was refreshing to see.
And even like throughout the universe at the time, like she interacts a little with like Young Justice and probably the Teen Titans, but like, the JSA is her team, even though it's full of buddy duddies. She doesn't ever go hang out with the teenagers really. She hangs with these guys.
and that's a really interesting wrinkle to this book that I actually don't think you see a lot in other superhero teams, where you get multiple generations of character in the same book. Like Jay Garrick is obviously an old man, and then you have Sand, who represents that middle group, but then you have Stargirl, who is the young up and comer.
I mean, look at the cover alone, like the cover that I have up on the stream. Like you have the characters you mentioned. You have Black
Yeah.
Canary, who's following in her mother's footsteps. You have Wildcat, who's kind of like one of the old guys on the old guard.
Yeah, he is.
You have Jack Knight, who's the other Starman. Atom Smasher, the other Atom Smasher. It's all built in. Even the whole story with Kendra Saunders, Hawkgirl, and her idea of what legacy is, it's very different than the others. Kind of comes into play towards the tail end of these 25 issues. That it is all built in to these characters' core, really, each and every single one of them in different ways. And as I'm reading that, I was like, oh man, this is fun stuff. Even the Hourman stuff, I had no idea who this Hourman was.
Mm-hmm.
Completely invisible to me. I saw him on the cover. I'm like, who the fuck is this? A Zazel looking character. Um, and then I was like, oh, okay. Rex Tyler, Android. This is our vision. Okay, cool. Um, it's built into every single one of them, and that's probably what I enjoyed the most of it for sure.
There's a part later on in the series, well after where we read, but it's always been a little hook that's interested me that's never quite been followed up. Somehow or another, Courtney learns about Captain Marvel's secret identity. He was Captain Marvel at the time. And he joins the team and excuse me, she learns who he is. And he also very similarly walks that line of being, a young guy, as Billy Batson, but then, he stands tall with, Sentinel and the Flash and those. And Billy and Courtney start to date. And it gets a little weird when he's Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that's like a accidental problematic age gap.
Yeah, yeah. But I like it's interesting. Like,
Huh. Yeah, I have every reason, spoilers, I guess. I have every reason to want to continue reading this beyond what we did. And a big part of that is to see who's going to be involved next. Like I didn't know that Shazam was going to be in this. So that's exciting.
We didn't even get the Latino Wildcat yet, and like
No.
we didn't even get to like the Alex Ross era of this book either, or Alex Ross is doing a lot of the covers.
man, that doesn't come for a long
I
time.
know. Yeah, I was looking through the covers of all the issues. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a while from now.
This is a series that's constructed, I thought, in a very interesting way. So every arc has a plot that is very specific. I don't think there's a lot of meandering. It's always like, this is the end of the world. This is the most serious thing happening. Like they're very locked in, right? But then it does something that you often don't see when you get a plot heavy story, which is to let us come to know the characters through their actions, through their feats. Like I think Alan Scott Green Lantern is cool enough. I don't think about him all that much, right? And in this book, he's referred to as Sentinel. I can't really think of anything he's done in modern comics that I was like, wow, that was really crazy. The Alan Scott Green Lantern miniseries was well written and I thought quite good, but it's nothing that he did in that book that I was like, oh wow. Whereas here, I believe he's a badass. I believe he's very powerful. He's got baggage because he has these kids. Obsidian is one of the primary villains of the the first bit of this, and so he's got to deal with that too. Every character gets to shine and gets to be a badass, gets to do something cool, heroic that lets you connect with them through their actions, not necessarily, which this happens too, not necessarily their words.
I would say the only character I think that doesn't do that is Jack Knight, because as soon as James Robinson leaves, the character leaves the book, um, which is fine because that's James Robinson's character, and I guess that if you want all that, that's in Starman. But I think that was my only gripe because I'm looking at this character list and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, Sean. Everyone kind of gets a moment, almost like a good part of an arc too. Like even Black Canary, who isn't fully developed as well as I'm used to seeing Dinah, um, she gets the romance angle,
Yeah. But
which
but I, but I
which
think being able to focus the arcs to individual characters as the key component helps to build emotional weight for that arc, right? If it is just plot, then this is the thing that happens. They're going to team up and break up and do whatever for the next fight. Versus when it weighs heavy on an individual, when it weighs heavy on Al, when it weighs heavy on Alan, when it weighs heavy on Hector, even like those are the things that it's like, oh shit, these people are they're people, they are people, they're reacting and they have these powers. And I think one of the things that I was thinking about was how much more focus you have to put on them and their reactions than compared to um, their uh, their reactions as opposed to their actions, because a lot of them in this case, yes, they're super powered, but someone like a Wildcat, like a Dr. Mid-Nite, like a Black Canary aren't. So you have to have interactions that are baseline enough for them to keep up.
Yeah, I think one thing that Geoff is really good at here, especially, and it's something that gets forgotten nowadays, and I talk about it a lot, is that he gives them human moments. You know, Wildcat and Sand, when they have a spare minute, they go see a movie.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know,
Raging Bull specifically too, which
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
draw some of the scenes from it. Yeah.
Black Canary and Doctor Mid-Nite go out on dates, right? Like, um, it's these human moments that make you feel like these are people, and it gives you weight. And so when Alan Scott is worried about his kids, but he takes one of his kids down as Sentinel, you know how much that weighs on him.
Even the risk, like the stakes in certain interactions. There's a scene, and Tyler, I shared this image with Mr. Terrific, where the plot point there, the thing that he's risking in the stakes, is that he has to perform some kind of surgery to be able to help Alan. Like, that is within his wheelhouse. That is the risk. That's the intensity. It's not the fight that just happened. It's okay, yeah, that's all well and good. Now we're saving a life. Now we have to, within his power set, within his capacity, now we need Mr. Terrific to come and save the day.
Man, Mr. Terrific, dude.
I had no idea he was in this.
So cool throughout.
Yeah. Oh, and like Cale, you're mentioning like the quiet human moments of this. Like these issues came out. I'm getting the exact dates on these. Like starting in '99, June of '99. So like when I think of like superheroes having those quiet human moments, like my first thought goes like Bendis on Avengers, because that's when I read that stuff, But like this is even before that.
Yeah. And it's funny that what Bendis does at Marvel, especially with Alias and Ultimate Spider-Man, still feels contemporary with, like, I think we're kind of coming out of that now, but it still feels fairly modern. Whereas as I was reading this felt classic to me. And I don't know if it's because I was like reading this roughly at the time. But this felt like reading an old comic book to me.
Me too. Not because it was bad, but because it just felt old. I don't even know, like, it's hard. First of all, for me, part of it was the art, which we'll talk more about. But
Hmm.
even the writing style doesn't fully feel modern. It still feels like it's the era just before Bendis, just before
Hmm.
all of that. Like, comics writing hadn't necessarily quite changed yet. Um, but they're doing all the right things, I think.
I, I wonder if, and this is what I was thinking about the writing, was it's trying to reach back to a Silver Age style, but with a post Watchmen kind of mindset. Like, there's seriousness to it, but the seriousness is happening with alongside some of the mustache twirling villains. There's still a level of like goofiness.
It's not that it has seriousness, it's that it takes itself seriously.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Our main antagonist is a wizard. Well, the guy just turned, the world upside down or whatever. I guess we have to go beat the shit out of this wizard.
Or it's thinker saying, oh, the trans myocardial revascularization, an interesting procedure, Michael. Like, it's just a little irreverent, a little silly.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, Sean, you said it feels a little old to you, right? Is that how you said it? I think that's how I feel too, but by design. Um, I mentioned it before, but like this feels like the bridge between Silver Age and like Vertigo. Like I think I see a bit of Doom Patrol in this. You
Yeah.
know, I can see some bits of like Morrison's Animal Man in this too, where it's stuff that was set in the DC universe, but set outside of it in a way, and kind of played with the medium a bit. Where this is saying, no, this is the medium. This is superhero comics. I'm taking that stuff from the Silver Age and we're going to lean into it. But it's still written by somebody writing a book in '99. And I think it's sort of bridging that gap. Sure, Bendis Speak doesn't exist yet, um, at least in superhero comics. But I do feel like it is that good bridge between. Oof, it almost skips over like '90s superhero comics. You know what I mean? Uh, like
I think it's a transition out of it.
yeah, that's what I was getting at exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the Scarab.
worst costume ever. Or
But I think that's and the Fate, the first Fate costume, where
oh,
it was the first guy that dies. He's got the Fate tattoo, and then the
Ugh.
cape is this great big shoulder pad over
the,
his arm, and he's got like a great big dagger. And
I was gonna bring that up because that's issue what, first issue, not outside of the Secret
yeah,
Files.
yep,
And like, yeah, that was the screw you '90s, because
yeah,
that Fate was the real summation of what the '90s was. It's like, oh no, Doctor Fate isn't cool. The helmet
yep,
of Naboo, that's not cool. That's old school. We don't like that anymore. We're gonna make him this grim dark, as people like to say, um, guy with a dagger, a Mike Tyson tattoo before Mike Tyson had tattoos.
yeah,
Um, and they kill him off immediately. No
yep,
pomp or circumstance. He's just like, oh,
yep.
he's dead now. Doctor Fate's back in.
And then the Scarab, has to come in and like be an old person again and get that get exercised out of that costume.
How did you guys feel about the first few issues before Jeff Johns jumps on? This is the Jeff Johns book club, but there are, what, 5, 6 issues or something where he's not even on the book yet. So
Mm.
what were your feelings about those issues? Because I personally saw a difference before he was on and after. So I'm curious to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts.
It felt a bit like table setting. Um, I don't think we get really the more personal moments until Jeff Johns comes in. I think that's the main shift I see. Once Johns is in, then we get those quieter moments where there's some everyday, like in civilian clothing. Whereas I felt those first five, which was like more Drew and all these big weighty things, and like the child that becomes Doctor Fate. Um, that was real heady superhero stuff, and I think it kind of leans more into the peoples with superpower stuff, as Steve Canaris put it in the chat. Once Jeff Johns jumps in.
Yeah, I agree. To me, I think that's the biggest what we were just talking about with the with Scarab and that transition out of the 90s and sort of recontextualizing the classic JSA um team and era and the weight that this team holds. I think Robinson does a really excellent job of establishing that groundwork and making it matter.
Do you want to weigh in, Marco?
Um, I felt the difference, but in I think tone mostly. Like, uh, it was still, we're trying to save the world. It was still like the building blocks of those things were still the same, but it uh the first issue with Jeff, you have the, what is this, on like the second page, you have an introduction, right? It almost felt like he was speaking to us. He's like, hey, brand new team, but I'm gonna kind of keep the thing still going. So I feel like the first few issues felt the same because Jeff was still trying to pull that energy in, and it wasn't until after his arc that I think he really started to get into his own kind of groove because as I was flipping through the pages of that, is this the sixth issue? There's a moment where sand comes out after something has collapsed and fallen to the ground. He's like, "Oh, what could have done this?" And Black Adam throws a punch. Black Adam, remember it. It still had some of those elements. So I'm like, okay, like he's not trying to defer. He's not trying to not defer. He's not trying to divert quite yet.
Mm. Moments like that, I sort of wondered, and especially like in the Wildcat issue, the stuff with about like Selena Kyle and things like that. It sort of uh, made me wonder what the progression here was. How much did Goyer do initially, and then Geoff, took over. We'll probably never know, but even later on, I don't quite feel like we found Geoff until a while. It took a while to get to the Geoff we would recognize.
Yeah,
I know that the near mint condition interview with Kelly Thompson ended recently because we have had an uptick in viewers over the last few minutes. Excellent interview. You guys should go check it out. Phenomenal AC says, hello, everyone. Don't forget to smash that like button. He came right from that interview. Thank you so much, Phenomenal AC. I totally agree with that. Now, before we continue, I do want to say the book club choice, the choice for what the book will be to represent the given month, is made by our patrons. And you guys get to vote any tier. Any supporting tier on Patreon gets to vote. So that's as little as $3 is what it'll cost you to be able to take part. We'll make the announcement at the end of this episode as to what the next month theme will be and how you guys can start the process with us of nominating your books for that. So thank you to our patrons who voted. Thank you to everybody who made your nominations for Geoff Johns month, and we're going to talk more about next month here a little bit later on. You know what? I gotta say, the first few issues, maybe it was just the first like arc of Geoff Johns coming on board, I wasn't in love. I thought that the first five, I thought it started out very hot. I was super high on all that. Black Adam coming in and the way that went, and it totally makes sense with the context of what happens later and everything like that. But all that stuff, I just didn't think was handled as well as what came before. And I thought that the characters were kind of taking a backseat, other than the relationship between Sentinel and Obsidian, which I thought was handled brilliantly. I love what Obsidian represents in this book as kind of like, hey, here's how the legacy thing can go wrong. And it's not just the legacy of a costume mantle, it's legacy from father to son, which I thought was all expertly handled. But I did think there was a not a learning curve, but just a comfortability curve maybe when Geoff Johns came onto the book. But I mean, look, that's the worst thing I can say, truthfully, about the. Go ahead, Marco.
sorry. I was just gonna say I feel like I felt that only up until that Darkness Falls arc ended because I thought
Yeah.
that was the weakest arc.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
from there I felt the momentum shift back up. So I definitely agree. Like it felt like that first issue, the setup for Black Adam, um, that uh, was the transition issue, and then the transition arc, and it's like, okay, we're in our groove. That's when I feel like I felt Geoff.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Normally, I don't read comments at this point, but I do want to catch this one. Conslayer 92. Wow, I ordered JSA Omnibus Volumes 1 through 3 5 days ago. And now that I see this video, I think I made the right purchase. Well, you've come to the right place because we are talking about it now. I hope that you have already read it so that we're not spoiling it all for you. But thank you for being here. If this is your first time here with us, Really appreciate you. Anybody who's new, make sure you guys smash the like button and subscribe to the channel because we do these once a month. We do a whole lot more every single week. So if you want comics content in your feed, we are definitely the channel for you.
I like to see the algorithm working in our favor for once.
Oh yeah, we are loved by the algo. Um, I really love something specific about comics from this era that I've noticed, and maybe I'm cherry picking because I really haven't read enough from this period. But I think that back in this time, and it certainly extends out maybe another decade, comics don't assume you know everything. And they know that you can't just
Yeah.
go on the internet to look it up. So when the Injustice Society turned up, and one of the most standout issues of the run, but when they show up, I'm looking at them and I'm going, well, okay, cool, but who the fuck are they? And then on the left of the page, it tells you who everybody is.
We talking the Wildcat issue,
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
one and
yeah.
done.
yeah. And when it shows you the Injustice Society members, you can see who they all are. And now I know these characters, and I was like, wait a second, I've seen some of these motherfuckers before. Just recently in the current JSA by Jeff Lemire,
Yeah.
but I couldn't connect with them the way that I did here.
I was gonna ask about that. How do you feel that this same team is getting tackled with variation in the current run? Uh, does that feel? Because to me, I forgot that this moment happens, and I'm like, oh, I guess they're like that's a well you just kind of come back to with these guys. That makes sense.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
go.
I was gonna say I feel like we should tackle that towards the end because I think there's other characters I'd want to talk about who we haven't really gotten to yet. But I think there's a clear through line between the two.
I mean, we're here now with these guys, so I figured.
Well, I think the key issue that a sure the Injustice Society is great, um, but it is that theme of interpersonal relationships that I think that current run of JSA is showing really well. I think it's like Sand is in the current run with he has a bit of a thing with is it Jesse Quick at the time at the current time, but there is that drama in that, and there is that legacy built into it. We got the old guard and the new guard at the same time, even so much that we even had literally in JSA, talking about this issue of the JSA we read, but we had the Wildcat one man army issue most recently, which feels like now that I've read this run feels like a direct callback to this issue, except it doesn't work out for him in the current run.
Wow.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
But you're right, Marco. Reading this makes me like the current run even more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that I mean, in the Wildcat issue, the Injustice Society, they get jobbed the fuck out.
Oh,
He
bad.
smoked them, and it was. I mean, look, I'm not criticizing it. It was an awesome issue. It was so fun, and I can't wait to hear Cale get on his soapbox about it. But to answer your question, Marco, I connected more to the Injustice Society here by far. I understand who Johnny Sorrow is. That issue where they break down like his origin, that was probably my favorite issue of the run. And it added context to him and his mission, and we got context for the other Injustice Society members to where now when I see them in the future, now I care about them, whereas I just didn't before.
Well, the thing with the Injustice Society too is that their legacy, like at the same time that the JSA is legacy, so is the Injustice Society. You have Killer Frost. Who is Killer Frost or is it
Icicle.
Icicle? Oh my God, there's so many freaking cold themed villains at DC. But it's Icicle. Like he's literally his father's son, who only has these powers because his father had a gun that like affected his mom somehow. Or even Johnny Sorrow is like a bridge between the two. He's like, oh, he was a JSA villain. He was away for a while. Now he's back to fight the current JSA. Like it's built into those characters. But that I think works as a great foil to our heroes.
I really think one thing that's interesting about this Injustice society is that none of them, except for maybe Count Vertigo, really feels like a direct opposite of one of the heroes. And I think that's good and bad. I don't particularly think that any of them feel like a match, but at the same time, like, you know, later on, like we see Alan Scott get taken out by like a wooden arrow, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like, man, Alan wishes it was that Red Lantern dude.
Yeah, for real, because that's the same arc. Like that was Blackbriar Thorn or whatever I think his name is. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
it was
yeah.
like a spec from him, right? That like
Yeah,
grew.
some
Oh man, but like it's not a match, but it is because that's his one weakness is wood.
right, right. But yeah, but I mean, it's not like, you know, in the newer version, it's a
Oh,
Red
it's quite
Lantern,
literally,
right?
yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah, and the Sand's opposite
Is
is a poison guy,
fog or mist or something like that.
something like that.
Fog.
Yeah.
Yeah, fog.
Um, and I just think, you know, like while it is legacy and like old villains, like they feel papery, and that there's really not a ton there if you don't know it. You know, we get that couple issues with Johnny Sorrow because he's the most interesting one.
Mm. I
Besides the rival, obviously. Sorry.
I despise the like, oh, the villains on the team are gonna match the heroes on the team but be
Mhm.
their opposite in some way. It's like Pokemon. Like I don't you don't need to
Yeah.
stack the deck with the water type because we've got fire types. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I like the fact that that wasn't the way it played out. But at the same time, there were things that worked in the favor of the villains, but also the heroes. Like when Dr. Mid-Nite, he's fucking blind. So Johnny Sorrow's powers don't work on him. I'm not sure if they designed it that way from the jump. Like we got to have Dr. Mid-Nite for that moment with Johnny Sorrow later. But the fact that it worked out like that is awesome. But it also worked the other way for the villains, like the wood that you pointed out earlier, which is
Mhm.
goofy as fuck. But it's like, well, hey, that's the guy's weakness, and that's who's on the team, so fuck it.
Yep.
When I was in screenwriting school, my professor would always say, "Use what's in the room,"
Mhm.
and that's just like you might not know everything that's in the room, but there will be something in there that you can then use in your story that makes sense.
Chekhov's gun,
Yeah,
Chekhov's wooden arrow.
Chekhov had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just silly moment.
Let's talk about the Wildcat issue. Let's let's get into it. This is the Wildcat. This is the Kitty Pride. This is the one v all style issue where the other members of the JSA they're on dates, they're doing this, or not on dates, they're doing whatever they're doing, and Wildcat is the one who can hold down the fort, and he takes on the entire Injustice Society solo. Cale, please.
I mean, listen, I don't have so much to say. You know, I've preached Wildcat for years on this show. Um, listen, I think Wildcat is what Batman would be if DC were honest. Listen, dude's just a badass. Dude'll fight the wind. I listen, Wildcat's my favorite character.
there's that one bit that justifies Wildcat's reason for just like soaking in a bathtub in this issue, where our man, he's like, "Hey, I can," or Doctor Fate, I forget who it was. He's like, "Hey, I can heal those wounds for you if you want." And
Oh,
Wildcat's
man.
like, "Nah, man, I was gonna do it the old-fashioned way. This is who I am." That is who Wildcat is.
Chilling in the tub, talking to
And then,
Selena.
he's having some phone sex on the phone with Selena Kyle.
He's like, hey, yo,
This is why
girl, what you wearing?
you don't fuck with like a quirked up white boy. That's who Wildcat is in this. He's horned up and he's ready to play. And he
And
takes out the whole team.
and if you if that scene where he's just in the tower, if you look at his at the cast, you actually see like signatures for different people too.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the
that's
same
funny.
page where you see like the villain names, right?
No. Oh, is it in there too?
Oh,
I didn't
it's right
realize.
before. It's right before.
Right before it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it's just cool. Like he's obviously, because he's older than Dinah, he's the biggest underdog in almost any scenario. Once they start fighting people, and so for him to be the one to knock out the entirety of the team is this is why we keep him. Because yeah, he's old. Yeah, he has his he takes his beatings, takes his licks, but he gives it back, and that's inspiring for the rest of the team. And this is a good issue for us, the reader, because we get to enjoy a moment where it starts off with him in the tub, and then at the end, I think it ends in a similar situation where he's just where like the house is a mess. It's a bit. It's all a bit, but he kicks ass during it.
Yeah, it's an issue that I think was necessary for people who don't have an affinity or familiarity with Wildcat. It's the exact kind of thing that you would expect for a character like this, but they all need it. When Wolverine and the X-Men infiltrate the Hellfire Club and Wolverine gets sent to the bottom of that bitch and he has to go all the way back up by himself, that's this moment. Except those guys were jobbers. These guys are super dangerous, and Wildcat has no powers other than 9 lives or whatever.
It's tenacity.
Supposedly.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I've never seen that.
I mean, either that's new to me as I was reading this. I'm like, that seems like bullshit.
Yeah, like I've read this issue a few times, and I've gone through this whole series a couple of times. Um, it's genuinely never brought up again.
I was thinking, man, he probably lost quite a few of them lives just in the Black Adam fight alone. That
Yep.
comes a little bit later.
I'm looking at the superheroes fandom page for this for the wiki, and Wildcat's powers are 9 lives at any given time. What does that mean? Any given time.
Resets with any given writer.
Yeah.
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 All it is that the superpower is just for him to mention it as a badass moment. That's the only thing it's used for.
I'm a Wildcat. I got 8 lives.
I got 8 more left in me. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a fantastic issue that made Wildcat cool to me. I will always shit on him, but I definitely understand where the love comes from.
But now you know you're wrong. So
Yeah.
So speaking of like Comics Pals meme characters, the scream I scrumped when I saw Director Bones was in this.
Oh yeah.
I was like, wait, no way. Is this the Comics Pals book? Like, what's going on here?
I have notes and I literally wrote Director fucking Bones.
In it. The DEO, was it?
Yeah, the DEO.
It's with what's her name? Cassandra Chase? Is that who is in this? The blonde woman?
He's such a fucking jobber.
He's great.
Director Bones is such a jobber. Dude, he gets clowned so bad. I just read a recent issue of Green Lantern and Hal Jordan shits on him so bad. And then even in this, I feel like he gets shit on. I can't stand this guy.
Perfect government stooge.
yeah.
He's very much a
Yeah.
stooge.
Yeah. A spine with no spine.
You know who he reminds me of is Skinner from the X-Files. He doesn't do anything, but he walks into the room and says, "Mulder, Scully, I got a case for you. Don't do that. We're the government." All right, I guess you're all right.
He's the chief in any police drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cameron Chase, Julia Rowell. Thank you for the shout out. Yeah, it's Cameron Chase.
I don't know how you guys felt, but in the issue Split, where we see the plane crash, I was definitely thinking about Jeff Johns's sister, the person that inspired
Oh.
Stargirl, and then the way that that whole thing ends, where the way that they beat Extant, I think it
Extant. Yeah.
was to swap Al's mother with Extant in the plane crash. That was insane, and I definitely read that as Jeff Johns kind of like pulling from
Mm.
his real life and what he may have desired.
A bit of fantasy you can write into the
Hmm.
book. Yeah, for sure. I thought that was
Interesting.
I forgot I forgot that parallel, honestly, while I was reading it. Like while I was reading it, I was like, oh wow, they just killed Adam Smasher's mom and he has to react to it in one page. um but yeah, that's an interesting thought that I didn't even think about while reading this.
Yeah, like I was like, oh shit, you're really putting your paint on the page here, man. Damn. Uh, things get crazy in the Extant arc because he's so powerful that this is where like they lean a lot on, characters like Our Man, characters like Sentinel to some degree, but even Metron who's here, because what this guy Extant can do is so overwhelming that like they're going through time, they're like slowing down, they're doing so much wild shit throughout this whole arc. I struggled to hang on a little bit because of how crazy it got. But the best part of what Jeff Johns does in comics to me is finding a way to root everything in character. And that's what kept me grounded throughout.
Even the X stuff, which I've never read Zero Hour. I know he's like the big bad of Zero Hour as well. Um,
Oh,
so like this was like, hey, we're taking a event villain and putting him in just a quick arc. Like that's big. That's a big deal. It's a big threat for the JSA. But like they kind of tell me everything I need to know. I had no idea he was Hawk. Like
that was crazy.
like that was
Yeah.
news to me. I knew who Hawk is from Rob Liefeld's run. But like that was
But like
yeah,
that's what's
I know the
important.
dynamic. I've watched Titans. You know what I mean? Like I understand the dynamic, but like I did not know this was a wrinkle in it. I didn't know they tied into the idea of chaos and order as deeply as Doctor Strange did, or Doctor Fate rather. So all of that to then get into this multiversal spanning story with bringing a great way to bring in the original Star Spangled Kid for Stargirl to kind of play with as well. I thought it was great, and I mean, like, what was that, like a 3-issue arc?
I think 4 maybe.
Something like that.
Man,
Yeah.
remember arcs that small?
Yeah.
We were talking about Dark Patterns, Batman Dark Patterns, how those are 3-issue arcs. Like a lot of these are 4 issues max for arcs. For such a big idea as this guy rewriting the universe, done in 3 or 4 issues.
But it makes the pacing, I think it helps the pacing because it very much is, plane crash on a double page spread. Director Bones is here, and then you get Adam Smasher just like, spare me your sympathy. That's kind of what you get for a reaction. It's just like momentum, keep it going. Let's get to the next moment, the next scene. And I think that's balanced out here really well throughout the series. It never goes like it feels like full pedal. It knows at what moments to kind of stop and focus on, specifically for characters. And then when it comes to plot points, all right, let's get to the next character moment.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. It just never leaves its characters behind. Doesn't get lost in the powers.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna compare it to any specific book, but that is one of the most common problems, in my opinion, with superhero team up books.
Hmm.
Is that you think like who would be cool to go together, and you think maybe about powers like Wolverine and Colossus, for example. And obviously those two have a history you could play with, but like if you don't pick characters that have history, if you aren't thinking about character and you're only thinking about toy smashing together, that's when you can get like fun popcorn comics. But I don't know that that really generates stuff that stands the test of time like this does.
Right. Right. That's event books, is what you're talking about, right? Like, or just your run of the mill team book. We need more than, like it or not, we need more than action figures, slapping each other in the face. Like, we need to invest in these people so that we can keep it going.
I would argue that this, through the 25 we read, should be required reading for someone who is going to tackle teams, superhero teams in comics, because it's doing it so right that I think there's a lot to take away from how well this is done. When you can connect everybody in the story to the theme, everybody's connected to the themes of this story.
Yep.
There's nobody random. There's nobody like, oh, how did they get here? Everybody matters. Everybody's a part of the overall messaging and point. And that's not easy to do. Let's talk a little bit about the art, because we haven't brought up the art yet. Now, I mentioned Steven Sadowski does most of the art. We do see Buzz. Buzz is only credited as Buzz, so I don't know who Buzz is outside of this.
It's Kevin McAllister's brother, actually.
Lightyear?
Listen, take your pick. I thought the art was the weakest part of the book.
Interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of it for most of it. I thought that Steven Sadowski's style, I mean, it's very reminiscent of a lot of artists. I just think his pencils are inferior to a lot of the people that his style is reminiscent of.
I think it was the coloring in a lot of situations. That's probably the biggest thing that I like graded me was because I thought that the art here was strong, and it achieved what it needed to with regards to capturing a mix between Silver Age and like Vertigo stylings, darker shadings, a lot of like scratchy lines, coming out. I think Cale mentioned, coming out of the more hyper, I guess just hyper whatever of the 90s. For me, it was there'd be sheen and shine on body parts that were not flattering to the layouts, the pencils, and the inks.
I also, because I think the coloring jumps out to me too, but like I'd like to read the original issues because subsequent reprints and digital comics will change the coloring sometimes.
Unless it don't look that different.
Okay, all right.
To be honest, yeah, like it looks a lot like this.
It feels of the time for me. Like this is around the time of Ultimate Spider-Man, and it's not Mark Bagley, but it feels of the time of Mark Bagley. So like I knew when this book came out, so the art didn't really bother me too much. There are some points. I think it's the Johnny Sorrow. Once we get his origin, and I think that was Segovia, or how am I pronouncing his name? I'm probably mispronouncing it. Sadowski. I'm getting my Stevens mixed up. He drew almost like this, like Cronenbergian bit to the origin, where Johnny Sorrow. It's him grossly kind of contorting into his own mask. I thought like there's some really good stuff here.
Oh yeah.
That I liked, but it's of a time. I think as long as you can be aware of that, I don't think it's bad.
It felt very in and out to me. Like I'm looking at the Wildcat issue, and like the way Wildcat's mask sits on his head is so specific. And every time it's on the page, it looks so good. Like it looks like an old boxer's hood, right? But funny shaped and, has weirdly looks like a little bit of a dog, right? Like it looks good and specific. But then there were other times throughout reading this, and I probably should have gotten a picture of times that I'm talking about, but I didn't. um, where it felt like they were just blobs on a page. Like I just like, to be honest, I was kind of pumped when Sadowski was off the book because like at least I knew it would be consistent at a certain point.
Hmm.
I had a lot of trouble with the faces. I thought Wonder Woman looked really weird. Metron's face and body were just off all the time. Um, there were just for me there were a lot of problems, and it's like, damn, you have Alan Davis doing covers. I would really like to see that in here. I don't know. For me, like time, yeah, this definitely looks like it's of the time, but I don't think it's like the good of the time. I think it's the middling of the time. And I was honestly surprised because I associate Geoff Johns with like he can get the greatest artists. He can get, he has pick of the litter, but this is going so far back that I don't know how big of a priority this book was to DC at the time. It doesn't feel like it was just because of who's on it. That's how we tend to think with our modern brains. So to me, I didn't like a Black Adam looked kind of rough. I don't know. I wasn't really in love with the art at all. Um, but there was an issue in particular that I thought looked pretty cool and did some cool things. Well, there's two. The one I thought looked good was the Johnny Sorrow issue, but then the other one was the one that does like telling two stories at once. The top half is one story and the bottom half is another story. I thought that was pretty cool.
In the later Black Adam stuff, right?
That was
Yep.
the Black Adam Hawkman stuff, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
prelude, I think it was. Yeah.
that was
You
cool as shit.
Was that, let me just make sure I'm looking at the right page, but I think that was Rags Morales.
Was that Rags? I
Oh,
think
I could
yeah.
no, I think that prelude issue
The
was
prelude
Rags,
issue is
not
Rags
this.
Morales, yeah.
Yeah. I was excited to see that. I like Rags Morales.
Oh yeah.
It's funny, I'm looking at these issues, and Tomasi was editing this book, which is
I know,
a
yeah.
funny bit, yeah.
Yeah. The Johnny Sorrow issue, Dan Trudeau mentioned in the chat that Johnny Sorrow was created for this, which I had no idea. I assumed he was an old villain. But you talk about making a character matter. If this is the first time he ever appeared, this run like this, man, he connected that character to the legacy of the JSA, made him seem like a legitimate threat, gave us his reasoning and everything else in not that much page space.
And like, keep it simple, stupid too. Like, what's his power? Oh, if you see his face, you go crazy. Like that's it. You die. It's like really simple, but it works. And I love Johnny Sorrow. Like, I've been familiar with him in his more modern appearances, which isn't many. Um, so this getting like his origin, I thought, yeah, he's freaking ruled.
Yeah, and then the Spectre joining the fray with this arc. Man, they went and got the heaviest gun, bringing
Hell
him
yeah.
into the picture. Um, Again, like I don't have a ton of familiarity with the Spectre. I've certainly seen him. Um, Here, it felt like, oh shit, they went and got that guy. Like that's how he felt, whether you know who the Spectre is or not. When he came on board, it felt like, oh shit. And
Yeah.
then when he
Yeah.
gets eaten alive and he's just bones, I was like, oh, they're done. They're
Yeah.
fucked. There's no way out of this. There's nothing left.
And then as I'm reading this too, I'm like, this is Geoff Johns writing Hal Jordan. Like, this is when the Spectre was Hal Jordan.
Yep. Yep.
So this is like, oh, is this what? It's just like proto Green Lantern in a way, like because Hal Jordan was off the table at this point.
I'll tell
Oh.
you, yes. And you can see it early on, and that was how I knew it the big switch happened, was because at a certain point early on, Alan talks about being a being of pure will or whatever. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh, that's Geoff.
Yep.
I see him. Hey, buddy. Yeah, good to
Yeah.
see you.
And they make reference to being like, "Oh, Spectre, he seems
Yeah. He
familiar."
sounds
Yeah.
familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Right.
"What?" I was like, "What?"
Oh, you didn't know that, Marco? Oh,
No,
I can't believe, Tyler, that you just let that happen. You didn't make him guess.
Sorry,
I
I
had
thought.
no
I didn't,
idea. Damn it, Tyler!
sorry,
Now
you
I'm
have.
never reading that
You got to
book.
read about parallax and all that shit now.
What you call me? Yo, that scene where he just falls, I was like, "Oh, yeah, similar to Sean. Yeah, that's it. All right, cool. Weird that it kept going for another 40 issues. It died right here. I don't understand."
So quick question here. Julio Raul says, "I have a question. Was Wonder Woman's mom a member of the JSA?" Yes, the Wonder Woman in this is Hippolyta.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, yo, can we talk about Jay Garrick?
Dumbass
Oh,
hat.
that's
Hey, hey,
cool.
hey.
Badass. When he's fighting Rival, first of all, I have no idea who that is. Never seen that character before. I was like, what the fuck?
Bro, I only know Rival from McFarlane action figures. McFarlane put out a Rival figure that was like it was called, we call them peg warmers in the toy collecting sphere, where they just sit on the pegs because it's just an ugly Jay Garrick flash. I was like, oh, this is an actual character, and I'm reading a comic about him. That's refreshing. Yeah, I kind of popped when I saw Rival in this. I was pretty hyped for it.
And then Jay Garrick is, they use his powers in interesting ways. The way they let him like feed off of Black Adam's speed to
Yeah.
go even faster. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's a wonderful thing. Like, cool, he's powerful. And then fucking Rival out of nowhere, like, what is going on? And when he goes back to his wife Joan, I was like, "Oh my god, she's gonna die." It's Rival, and it's not because Jay succeeded. This book does that so many times. There's so many reversals where you think things are one way and then they're not. And I loved that moment in
My,
this book.
my favorite J bit in this is when he needs to pretty much let Joan know. He's like, I gotta run as fast as I've ever run before. I might not make it back. Um, and he like reminisces the fact that like, oh, this has killed so many other people. This killed Wally. This killed Barry. It killed Johnny Quick. But I'm still here. I thought that was a great summation of who Jay Garrick was. It is as a
Yeah.
character. He's the Flash that always will remain in some form or fashion, and he's confident in that too, which I think makes him like a necessary member of the JSA.
How did you guys feel about the last arc with the resurrection of Hawkman and the Black Adam and Thanagar and everything else?
I
Anytime,
oh sorry, go ahead.
anytime you go to Thanagar, I pop. Love it. Bring me to those planets. Bring me out there. It's cool sci-fi shit. Um, and the way they tie it to the Egyptian mythology is always a cool wrinkle in like the world of the Hawk people. Um, it feels like a. It's always felt like a retcon that tried to make them extraterrestrial. But I thought it was a again a cool way to play back into some level of legacy. But this time with a new upstart hero.
Yeah, I really loved the this arc. This like I enjoyed the rest of it, but this is where it really kicked in for me. I was having a blast. This just felt like great Jeff Johns, you know, um, honoring of legacy and then kicking ass.
I I knew about Hawkman and Hawkwoman's, eternal relationship or whatever. But the monkey wrench that gets thrown in with the Kendra angle was so cool. I didn't see it coming. I kind of knew that there was some, because I think right now there's something like that going on where the current Hawk woman doesn't mess with Hawkman in that way. I'm not sure if that extends all the way back to this.
The current one, Kendra exists and Shira exists at the same time.
Ah, okay.
So I think that's where the conflict is.
Okay. But the way that that gets used here, oh man, it was heartbreaking. Like, first of all, it was cool as shit to see Hawkman come back. I wasn't around when he was dead. Don't even really care about the character. It was cool as hell to see him come back the way they did that. Just epic. But then, also, it's heartbreaking that he has this like love and passion for this woman that is way deeper and longer than any human alive could ever conceive of. And she doesn't even really give a fuck about him.
That's why we don't simp, fellas.
That's like the worst version of like unrequited love.
Cale, am I right in thinking this might have been the first time they tried to square out the conflicting origins of Hawkman? Where you got the Thanagarian and the Egyptian, which is some.
I'm sure it's one of them. Yeah.
Well, they've done it multiple times, so yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm sure the old heads will know a little bit
Yeah, I think Dan's still in here.
a little bit better, but
to call him old.
I think between this and the origin,
Sure.
the not the origin, sorry, the there's a Hawkman book.
Yep.
That Geoff was on right around this time too. That was really good. That I think did some work here too.
There was Rags Morales, I think.
Yeah. There was a bit of me that was kind of seeing the Matrix throughout this issue, where it's like, okay, this feels or this arc, this feels like a way to kind of solidify who Hawkman is, and that was kind of taking me out of it a bit. But I thought this was, honestly, I think this might be my least favorite of the arcs. The Return of Hawkman 3-issue arc. It just felt a little bit like, all right, we're focusing on Hawkman, not the JSA. They're taking a back seat. But because I liked it the least, I wanted to read more because I'm like, all right, I need a palate cleanser from it. I need to go back to the JSA, which is not part of the chunk that we're reading for this episode. But got me wanting more at least.
I thought getting to go to Thanagar was really cool. I didn't expect that at all. The focus on Kendra, because Kendra they didn't do a ton of work with her in the prior issues, and so they kind of backloaded a lot of the heavy lifting with her character, which I thought was cool. I love Jay being the bridge between the past and the present stuff. I thought that was sick as hell. Um, the redemption, the way they redeem Black Adam throughout was also very cool. But man, when they go to Thanagar and Hawkman has to step up and they just him and Hawkgirl are just beating ass. There's a one page, I'm trying to see if I can find it, but there's one page where um you just see them flying around beating the shit out of all of those other flying creatures, and it's just like, wow, I didn't know about Hawkman's game.
I was unaware of his game. What's that meme, Sean?
Right.
Yep. My one thing with sort of revolving around Kendra is like, up to this point, like it didn't feel like she was much of anything.
Yeah.
And then there was that weird moment. I don't remember if it had to have been early on, where she's got like scars on her wrist.
She's used early on as a weird sex symbol. It was very much male gaze focused. There's the first, I think, pages we get with her is her taking her top off. Like right before nipple is where they decided to to draw that scene. So there was some kind of weird like male fantasy involved with her early on that I think Geoff kind of turns on its head at the end by making her reject Hawkman's advances. That feels antithetical to the character, which I actually enjoyed in that arc. Because she's not subservient to him. She's not just going along with what he wants. Sure, she's attracted to him. He's a goddess among men, or god among men. But she still wants to forge her own path romantically, which I
Yeah.
thought was a good catch. Because early on, I was like, "Oh man, this is just it's just the hot woman with a battle mace." So it was nice to see her at least get some character towards the end there.
When they showed her wrists, I was like, man, okay, cool. There's gonna be something to this person. She has depth. Um, and her issues with her identity end up making a lot of sense when you get to the end and
Mhm.
you come to learn like this isn't who she's supposed to be or whatever. um the best thing I can say about it is that it makes me really want to know what happens next. I
Mm.
really 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 want to know where Kendra goes. I want to know where Hawkman goes in particular, because we spent so little time with them relative to everybody else, and for our purposes, the story is over.
Yeah.
So I really am curious where they go.
How does that feel, Sean? I think the words "I want to know where Hawkman goes" have just come out of your mouth for the first time in history.
1000%. You could make the same argument for pretty much every other character in this book except for Mr. Terrific, because I never cared about anybody here, but that's the beauty of crate digging and going back and through the annals of history with these characters and working your way back, because there are appearances, I guarantee you, of Hawkman and Hawkgirl or Hawkwoman that meant a lot to a reader who had this in their belt before, but meant nothing to me because I don't know them.
Do you mind if I give a call out to a character we didn't really give much talk to? I thought Dr. Midnight was fucking rad throughout this.
Yeah, he's cool.
Dr. Midnight comes in the middle of a story, shows up. He's like the cavalry. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just a doctor and I've been doing this for a couple months." Badass. Badass. And he winds up being with Black Canary throughout this. Maybe you could say he's a Mary Sue. He's like, the character fantasy of what a guy would want to be, and he gets to do the cool guy stuff. But this is a character that was like, "Oh, you mean the guy who has Red Robin's costume?" No, Red Robin has Dr. Midnight's costume.
Yeah.
So rereading this, I'm like, oh, this dude is like Bruce Wayne if he didn't have mental illness. I thought he was awesome. I wanted more. I wanted more Doctor Midnight after reading this.
There is a Doctor Midnight series that I think came out before this, maybe alongside it.
I'm looking that
Cool
up as
that.
we speak.
Yeah, but I think at the end of all of these, at the end of all of this, with especially that last page, where it's all just, they're back at the table, everybody's sitting down. It's this iteration of the team. It's
Hmm.
like, damn, where do they go from here? And that I think is a good sense and a good way to feel coming off of an arc, coming off of a run, is oh I let's go to the next one.
Yeah, at 1000%. Like, more recently, I've been trying to reach the end of an arc and then question myself, do I want to read this anymore?
Hmm.
And I don't need to ask that question when I'm reading something with so much propulsion that, like, I'm desperate to see what comes next. I like, if time weren't a factor, I would have easily kept reading, but I can't. But yeah, this book had me on the edge of my seat the entire time.
There's a an arc a little bit later on called Stealing Thunder, I think. Yeah, and you get the return of Johnny Thunder and the explanation of the Thunderbolt and Jakeem Thunder. Easily one of my favorites. You would really like Johnny Thunder and the Thunderbolt, Tyler.
Yeah, I bet. I'm realizing a lot of these
They're
characters have kind of like solo series throughout this time too. Like I looked up at the Doctor Midnight thing. There's like a 2000 run, written by Matt Wagner actually, who
oh, that's
is probably most.
probably good then.
He did Santa Mystery Theater, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
the yeah? And he did
Yeah.
is it Warlock or Wizard? What's his creator-owned book?
Grendel.
Mage.
Mage. Yeah, Mage is one I'm thinking of, but I think he also worked on Grendel too, Marco. You might be right about that. But
Right?
that's a good. It's like a dark horse creator around this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you are right. Yeah, Grendel. Yeah,
Not Grundle, Grendel.
depends on the version.
Sure, depends who's writing it.
So where do we come down on the Jeff Johns iteration of the JSA?
Here's what I'll say. I'm gonna keep reading. I don't think I've said that about a book so far. It was enough for it's like, all right, if I can get through my weekly comics and I have a lull and I want to read, I'm probably gonna pick this up and keep going. Uh, Out of all of the books we've done for a book club, I don't think I could say that about any of them. So I guess that's kind of high praise.
But this is also one of the first like ongoings that we've ever
Sure,
really covered, though, right?
sure. Yeah, we still have another. There's 87 issues,
Yeah,
and
I just looked.
we read about 32% of it.
a quarter of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which makes me want more, honestly.
We net on. I net out on. This was a great read to share with other people because I think there isn't an issue of accessibility necessarily. It's straightforward storytelling. Um, if you're interested in willing, I think you're gonna get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I think it introduces enough for maybe a newer reader to want to say, I want to see what else these characters have to offer or where they come from because there is so much uh, there is so much history involved here, and it's bleeding out of the pages.
Yeah, I full on love this book. I've loved the JSA just about my whole life. And I will go to bat for Jay Garrick's hat any day, and I will fight every single one of you the way Wildcat fought the Injustice Society.
His hat gets fucked up in this run. Then he just steals Rival's hat, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good move.
I feel like that's going to come to bite him in the ass eventually.
I think this is where we see Jeff really become who he becomes. Um and I think it only goes up from here.
Man, this is the good stuff. This is the good stuff. I would recommend this very highly to somebody who wants to read really good superhero comics, good superhero team comics. Everything that makes those kinds of books good is here. And I tend to like runs like this the later in that they get because that's the more chemistry the characters tend to have, the more comfortable the writing team is, the art team. I think about like Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and how that gets crazier and crazier and crazier. So I can only imagine the twists and turns that are to come. Um, Read this if you haven't.
Yeah, not only
It's
that,
that good.
I'm looking at like the future artists that are on it. Peter Snedberg, who does Hornsby and Halo, and Leonard Kirk, who I love Leonard Kirk. And like we haven't even touched Power Girl yet. Like, uh, man, I think I'm well, yeah, Cale. Um, yeah, I'm gonna keep reading this for sure. I think there's a lot there. And Stephen Wacker edits this at a certain point. He's the associate editor. Jeez, how young was he when this came out? Big Barda is on the team at one point. Jeez.
What?
You guys are in
Easy
for it,
recommend.
man. I'm looking through some of these covers. Oof.
It's
Yeah.
funny, like I was reading comics when the Alex Ross covers were coming out, and it just wasn't a book I wanted. You know, like JSA just did not compute to me.
These are so iconic of these
Yeah.
characters as well. Like I know the three that are here in a row, the four, five, Captain Marvel, Spectre, Mr. Terrific, Alan Scott, and then Jake Garrick. Those are just I've seen them in the culture.
Yeah. JSA 54 is that Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving cover with
Yeah.
Superman and Power Girl. Like it's iconic. The Alex Ross Mr. Terrific. You Google Mr. Terrific, you will see that Alex Ross cover immediately.
Hmm.
Chat. We have concluded our portion of the JSA conversation. but now the conversation between you and us begins. We want to read your comments. We want to know what you guys are thinking and saying about JSA. And if you have questions for us about the book that we didn't answer throughout our conversation, now is definitely the time to lay those on us. We're going to take questions for a little bit and comments and stuff like that before we let you know what the next book club month will be centered around and where you guys can nominate and all that good stuff.
I'm just looking through the questions here. We had one early on, and I'm trying to find it.
Matt Cosmo said, where does this rank for y'all in the Geoff Johns hierarchy? It's a good question. We just did our top 5 JSA Comics rankings on the main show, and I think it made Marco's number 2 before we were even through, and then I'm not sure where it landed for Cale, if it landed.
Don't think it made my top 5. I didn't write down my number 3. I don't know why.
It was not on my list, and I'm not sure I can say it would make my list yet. I need to read all of this. I need to know what it is in its entirety to be able to fully place it, honestly.
Clear some space.
Are you saying I should
Oh.
drop some monthly titles to make room for my reading?
No, I'm saying kick whatever your list was.
Get ready to
whatever
remove.
Ghost Machine book you
Sure,
think was high up. Go ahead and kick it off.
Number 5, Aquaman. Get prepared to take a dip.
That's too low.
You think Aquaman's too low on there?
No, JSA's too low.
Oh, got it. Okay.
David Melendez Doria says, did any of you guys read the compendium for this? I enjoyed most of the Golden Age throwback comics, but that Wonder Woman Hawk Girl one was horrific with the upskirt shots and fawning over Wonder Woman.
Ooh, yikes, no.
That I do have the compendium. I did not read that issue because that was not in the criteria for the show. And it sounds like I shouldn't.
Was that
Annual, maybe?
Was that the Justice Society Returns part?
Oh, there is that other one.
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's another classified or origin, right?
Yeah.
The compendium has a whole bunch of secret origins in it. Yeah.
It takes place during World War II. Like the heroes have to go. Yeah. David brings up Jay Garrick going to Dresden during the bombings, and I think that's the one, the series where that stuff happens. That's that. Despite the not so great Wonder Woman Hawk Girl issue, that whole series is also really good.
Let's see. We've also got Bruce Wayne with us. Bruce Wayne is here.
Ooh.
Whoa.
He says the Hawkman run by Geoff runs alongside this run. Hope you guys also read that. Look, Bruce, that's cool and all, but you're Bruce Wayne. So you should come correct. Drop that fucking $50,000 super chat on us since you're Mr. Big Bucks, and let's really do some. Let's talk turkey.
I need to borrow $200.
Listen, we're talking to Bruce Wayne. We could shoot a little higher.
Okay, I need to have $200. I'm not going to pay you back.
Dan Trudeau says, at the con where I talked to Johns during this era, he said he loved creating massive threats where he had to really think about how to get them out. Cool.
So that posits that he came up with a threat first before he comes out with a solution.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the good part.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
That's cool.
It's like watching a Columbo episode.
Rival apparently appeared in one comic in the 40s. This was his was only his second ever appearance.
Then why the fuck does he have a McFarlane action figure?
He's cool as shit.
But they don't have woman action figures. They have one Wonder Woman. Ugh, never mind. I'm glad he lost the license.
Entertain me with the crazy Hawk person lore. The Hawk woman we saw in Green Lantern Corps from the most recent Green Lantern Corps. is a different Shiera, and Kendra is the same. And Kendra is the reincarnated Hawk Girl, but the previous Hawk Girl was her aunt, who Hawkman, which is why Kendra isn't interested. Part of my lack of understanding that message is um missing words, but the other part is that that's crazy ass lore, and that's
Working
not
through all that
that
math.
yeah, that's not that interesting to me, sadly. Uh, but maybe reading through it narratively would work.
This is why the idea of either a constantly reincarnating Egyptian hero or Hawk's alien, it's hard to kind of square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They try.
Oh, they
Bless 'em,
try.
they try.
They try every single run.
Every time,
Honestly,
dude.
honestly,
Yeah.
no joke. The Liefeld run might be one of my favorites.
Really?
It drops all of that. He's just a cool guy with weapons.
Oh yeah.
He's like Indiana Jones with weapons, that's the Hawkman I enjoy.
Well, that's Carter. That's not
Yes.
Qatar.
This is the problem with Hawkman.
Oh, listen.
Shalom Warburg says JSA run goes beyond the 87 issues. It restarted with a new number one. Geoff Johns did the second run. Without going into spoilers, there is a follow up to Kingdom Come. First of all, Shalom,
Yes.
thank you so
Yep.
much for being here. Second of all, yeah, Cale, you want to respond to that?
Well, I was just gonna add there are more Alex Ross covers, and those are the good ones. That is post Infinite Crisis, I think.
That's when it becomes Justice Society of America and not JSA, right?
Think so, yeah.
When I was researching for this, actually the quote that I used earlier is more related to that second period of time that he was on the book. I'm looking forward to reading that because that's Geoff Johns at the height of his powers, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's like fully formed Geoff, and I would love to see what that looks like handling these characters.
That's another 54 issues.
Well, oh man, maybe what I'm about to say isn't true then. It's been a while. I was going to say it loses a little something because he's doing so much, I think. You know. But 54 issues could have been that much.
It's funny, like this is when the book was on the shelves when I was seeing it. This is where like Magog was back in the book. Yeah.
Yep.
Man,
Yep.
the last issue, 54, is a Darwin Cook cover. Oh God.
Miss Darwin Cook. Hound said early on, pretty sure my first exposure to Wildcat was in Brave and the Bold. Even though JSA was Earth 2, Bob Haney was that generation's Tom King, and he wrote whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. Hell yeah.
It's funny you should mention that because I think Wildcat's first appearance for me in anything is also Brave and the Bold, but the Batman cartoon show.
Yeah.
Where he is great in that. Who's he? He's voiced by Lex Lang. Okay, I don't recognize the voice actor, but man, that cartoon might be one of my favorite Batman cartoons of all time.
Yeah, easy. Dan also answered the Wildcat's 9 lives was randomly added by Morrison to Wildcat during his JLA run.
We would.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Because why not?
Man, Morrison's JLA would be a fun book to read, though. I don't know if you like the whole. I'm thinking like the key arc.
Yeah.
Oh, man, some good stuff there. White Martians.
Hayden's Hideout says, has Sean's hatred for Wildcat been completely absolved by this book? Look, it was never genuine hatred. It was a meme, all right? It was a meme that I was using to annoy Cale, and I will still do that. But I do acknowledge that Wildcat is a cool cat.
Holy cow, Tyler. Holy cat, Tyler. Wildcat in Brave and the Bold. Do you know who that is?
No.
Arlie Ermy. If I'm not mistaken, Arlie Ermy is like an ancient, ancient film actor who was like famous for being like the Marine. Yeah, he was in Full Metal
Oh,
Jacket.
R. Lee Ermey. Yeah. He's the
R.
Full Metal
Lee
Jacket
Ermey.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect voice actor for this. He's
Whoa.
like character actor extraordinaire. Yeah.
Yeah. Ronald Lee Ermey.
Actual member of the
Actual
military too.
sergeant.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Man, I need
We
another
missed
Full Metal
a
Jacket
super chat a
rewatch.
little earlier from Matt Fisher for 199 that says, "I know you saw that, Sean." Matt, you're probably not here at this point, which sucks because I do have to scold you. Matt Fisher super chatted during Monster's most recent stream to tell him to watch us tomorrow. And I
Today?
had said last week, or I'm sorry, tomorrow as in Thursday, for Pals Pools. So not even
Oh,
tomorrow,
okay.
because tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm all over the map.
Our man over here.
Yeah. You didn't tell him when it is. He was down.
Oh,
He was down. You didn't tell him when it is.
Matt, come on. Rookie.
Was this during a Raw recap? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Does he have Does he have an NXT recap?
No.
Damn, I was gonna say there's your chance, but
He is live tonight on somebody else's channel, but I don't know if Matt Fisher watches that. But Matt, come on, man. Come on. You gotta super chat him on tomorrow's stream, the Dynamite stream, to tell him to watch us on Thursday at 6 p.m. Because if I see Monster in the chat, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
I smell a crossover brewing. Honestly,
Oh my god.
Crisis
Don't
on
even
Two
get me
Rings.
started. I would love that.
Hierarchy of the comics pals might change.
It might. All right. So I think we've hit the questions for the most part that you guys have. We've hit the comments. Let's talk about next month. Let's talk about May. So in May, we've got one big superhero movie coming out, and that is Thunderbolts. So, inspired by that, we thought we would ask you guys to turn the tables a little bit. And instead of asking for a superhero book, let's lean into the supervillains and let's do a supervillain centric book this time around. We want your nominations for a book in which the villains take center stage and are the main character. So that's your Carnages, if you're so inclined. That's your Thunderbolts. That wouldn't be your Venoms, because Venom is not a villain in his own book. He's typically an anti-hero or just a straight out hero. So even though Venom can be a villain, in his books he is not a villain, so that would not count.
You guys have any wants with this?
I don't like bad guys.
That's the point, Cale.
Suicide. Ooh, would Suicide Squad count?
That would count.
Yeah.
I would think that counts. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Are
And
they?
there's a
Are
lot
they
of
acting as
iterations.
bad guys?
They are
in
bad
prison.
guys.
They're
They
imprisoned
are-
inmates. Yeah.
They're bad. They're bad guys doing good things, but not
Under-
for altruistic reasons.
Yeah.
Under
They're trying to
duress.
get out of work. They're
Yeah.
trying to just get out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Suicide Squad counts. Secret Six counts.
Yeah.
Sinister Foes of Spider-Man counts. I think that's a phenomenal book.
You've already got Flaming Jelly Beans on your
Superior
side.
Foes, yeah. Thunderbolts original incarnation counts. Warren Ellis counts. Even though I think we tackled that. Did we?
I don't remember.
No, I
else.
think I offered it back when we did our own
Yeah.
polling. Yeah. That Warren Ellis Thunderbolts would count. Even the Jeff Lemire stuff would probably count, even though Luke Cage is running it. Sean, does Bean's favorite Joker comic count?
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Surely.
Maybe?
Dark Avengers. Near said Dark Avengers.
Oof.
That would be at the top of my list. But the only thing that eclipses that for me, in terms of what I would like to read, is definitely the Warren Ellis, Mike Deodato Jr. Thunderbolts. That would be incredible to go back to.
Norman Osborn holding the goblin mask on a toilet saying, "I'm coming out." One of my favorite panels in comics ever.
Yeah.
What?
I send that to all my friends whenever they say something a little zesty, but you know. Yeah, even Atomic Count, even the 87 Suicide Squad. I've never read that, but like that's apparently where Amanda Waller was legit.
That's yeah. I think that's what I'd
That's the wall.
like to. Ostrander, I think
Yeah,
that is.
Ostrander, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
New 52 Suicide Squad. That's an option. That one's a little. I prefer the Rebirth era, but we'll see. A lot of options. It doesn't. I wrote Team Month on the slide. Ignore the team part. It's just a villain book. Could
Poison
be
Ivy wouldn't count, right? 'Cause she's a good guy now.
I read the first few
She ain't
issues
good
of
at it.
that, and she was killing dudes.
All right,
So
I
well,
would say
yeah,
that counts. I think Kelly Sue DeConnick, she did a Osborne miniseries with her. What's her name? Who drew Pretty Deadly? Emma
oh,
Rios.
Emma Rios.
Yeah,
Yep.
Emma Rios and Kelly Sue did an Osborne mini. That was really good. Um, Another sleeper, The Hood by Brian K. Vaughan, one of my favorite comics of all time.
excellent, excellent.
Back during Marvel Max.
Ooh,
Oof.
flaming jelly beans suggest red lanterns. That's supposed to be
That would
really
count.
good.
I would
Yeah,
count that. Yeah.
and that would absolutely count. Totally.
Casbot says
Deathstroke,
Deathstroke. What version? I like the Priest one
whichever.
a lot.
I was gonna say the priest one's supposed to be pretty good.
I think Kyle Higgins did one too. That was pretty fun.
Hmm.
So the way this is going to work is we are going to take nominations first. And that's going to start hopefully tonight, whenever we can get that image ready and get it out. We will get the nomination threads up for you on Discord. They'll be up on YouTube under the post tab, and then on our Patreon page, patreon.com/thecomicspals. No matter where it is that you choose to nominate a book, it is free. So if it's on Patreon, you don't have to pay us a dime or cent to be able to nominate the book. When we take all the nominations and we figure out which are the top four, next week we'll announce those books, those top four, and then the responsibility shifts over to our supporting patrons who can vote, and whichever book wins will be the subject of the the book club for April, or excuse me, for May, which is going to take place May 27th. It's always the last Tuesday of the month. So set your watch and warrant to that. I cannot wait to see what you guys end up nominating. There are so many possibilities, and I am begging you not to fuck us, because there are a lot of bad options as much as there are good ones. So deliver the goods so that we can have as good of a conversation about that as we just had about JSA.
Sean does not want a one bad day.
No.
Would what's that villain event book that you always like? The Jeff Johns one, Crime Syndicate.
Oh.
Forever Evil?
Yeah.
Would that count?
No.
Okay.
Well, no, I don't think so. No,
Okay.
It's
that's
about the
not.
heroes.
Yeah.
True. True.
I think there was an issue that revolved around the villains, but
There was a whole villain like
Villain.
single issue.
There was a
Yeah.
Crime Syndicate series as well during that time.
Mhm. Yeah, so there are plenty of options. We will leave it to you guys to figure out what we're gonna read, but I am excited to see what you guys determine. Brian 12ish says, "Man, working second shift makes me miss all the great streams. Gonna have to catch the replay yet again." I'm sorry, Brian. That sucks, but the good thing is that we are here for you. The material is here. You can always check it out.
and jump in the Discord. Because you know the conversations that happen here, that's only half the story.
And I'm sure that conversation will extend past issue 25.
Yeah, absolutely. No Craven's Last Hunt, although Matt figured that out for himself. Craven's Last Hunt, it's a great book, but it's not Craven's book.
Yeah.
Flaming Jellybean said, "Man, book clubs are rad. This was awesome. Thanks, pals. Gonna go play Oblivion now. Is it worth buying? Like, I've never played it before.
If it's on Game Pass, it's worth getting Game Pass.
I don't have an Xbox. Or
It's PC.
yeah.
PC has Game Pass.
Oh, Oh
Yeah.
shit.
It's actually cheaper if you do the PC version. The Xbox one's like $20 a month. But look into
It's
Game Pass.
that's Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, it's the one preceding Skyrim.
Right, right.
Doom, yeah,
Comics.
common sense. Use your common sense. Of course, Doom.
Yeah, the Christopher Cantwell run, right? Wasn't there a Cantwell run recently?
I think so. And
There was a
then what's
Kang
the
one.
one where Doom goes to hell to get his mother? I think
Ooh,
I can't
It's
remember what book that
that was a
is.
Doctor
It's not
Strange
like
book.
this
Mignola, isn't it?
Doctor Strange, no?
That was,
Yeah, I
isn't
think
that
so.
the Oath?
Doom's in it though,
No, that's not
if
the
I'm
Oath. It's the
remembering
other one.
correctly.
I thought it was Strange that goes down to hell and Doom happens to tag along or something. I haven't read it, but it is Mignola.
Okay.
Hmm.
Does the Authority meet this definition? Not the one I read. The one I read, they were douchebags, but they were heroes.
It's part of the discussion point on the Authority.
Yeah, and near Triumph and Torment. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go. All right, we're gonna get out of here. The next time we are live with you is this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for Pals Pulls. If you are curious about what the docket for Pals Pulls will look like, you got to watch Pals Previews. Drops every single Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Check that out. We put a lot of work into it, and we hope you guys watch that. And then, of course, we will be back live with you on Saturday for the main show, 10:15 a.m. Eastern. Not only that, not only are we going to do the main show, where it's free comic book day, which is Tuesday, but we're also starting the first deep dive of 2025. It's going to be about the direct market. We hope you show up and support that. We are also going to be doing a Thunderbolts review after the main show. So we've got a jam-packed Saturday planned for you, and we hope you enjoy all of it, and we hope that we see you for all of these different streams. Enjoy the rest of your time today, tomorrow, all the days to come. We will see you throughout the week. Until then, take care, guys.